for small business owners until you totally outgrow a platform.
Yeah.
Stick to the simple stuff.
Hi, I'm Jane Hilsden, marketing consultant and founder of Dragonfly Marketing and author of How to Do Marketing, a comprehensive guide for small businesses. Welcome to another episode of the How to Do Marketing show. In this episode, we are diving deep into the world of email marketing. We are going to look at why small businesses should do it, how they are best to approach it. Do marketing emails even get read by people anymore? How do we measure the success of email marketing? How often do we send emails out to us as subscribers, and how do we get subscribers? To answer all of these quite frequently asked questions by small business owners, I'm talking to Adam Franklin. Adam Franklin is the CEO of Blue Wire Media, a business that he co-founded in 2005. So the Blue Wire Media email, which is called Blue Wire News, goes out weekly to over 35,000 subscribers worldwide. So Adam definitely knows a thing or two about email marketing. Let's jump in. All right, Adam, let's start with, why is an email database such an important asset for a small business to have?
I'm glad you asked, Jane. Your email database is so important because they are your future customers. They're the people that are going to be working with you, providing revenue for your business. And it's certainly probably a bit of an injustice to refer to them as an email database, because they're real people. They're real people who you can help, who you can serve, and who will hopefully be working with you if you do your email marketing right.
Yeah. And look, I know, in my line of work and certainly working with a lot of small businesses, email databases or even just collecting people's emails and storing them in some sort of, even if it's an Excel spreadsheet, it's not generally something they do or they prioritize, or they may have, all of their previous customers' emails, but they're all over the place. But it is important to collect that information. What are some of the things that, how can small businesses actively build their email database? So let's say, for example, we say, do you know what? It's really, really important for you to actually have that email database. And you're going to find out why in this interview with Adam. He's going to show you all the magical things that you can do with it. So let's say the business has gone, great, well, I've got a whole stack of emails. I'll go and put those on, an Excel spreadsheet. We'll get them loaded up into some email software. How can they continue to grow that email database, beyond just collecting emails from their everyday customers?
Sure. So it's a good point you make there. Everyday customers, everyday people you come in contact with, who are your friends, suppliers, contacts, you name it, they are all people you should be asking on a regular basis. And people don't. So that's the simplest place to start. So let's assume that's happening. How do we grow it from there? Well, we're very fortunate these days in that we've got social media. So we have now got the opportunity to connect with people all over the world, in our area, in other areas. And we've got existing networks on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So they are also places to be reaching out to people and say, hey, I'm going to be writing, or I am writing, an email newsletter covering XYZ.
Yeah.
Would you like to be a part of it?
Yeah.
And that is the second easiest place to be looking to grow that database.
Yeah.
Manual, it's one-on-one, but it works. And I would encourage listeners to use that strategy for, to get to 500 contacts, to get to 1,000 contacts, because that is probably going to move the needle the most. And you've already got existing trust and relationships with these people. So that's where I would start initially.
Okay. So hang on. So you said you'd start with your existing customers and then your social media communities.
Sure. So assuming they're collecting emails off the existing customers, then look to social media.
Okay.
And then beyond that, I would then recommend setting up a landing page on your website where people can opt into your email database to receive the
Right.
newsletter. And we can
Okay.
dive into some of the tactics around that as well.
So when you say, okay, use your social media channels, is this all of your social media channels? So say for a business that might be using Instagram as their main social media channel, or Facebook, do people, how do they actually use those channels to drive email subscriptions to their database?
Okay. The simplest but more manual way is when you're engaging with your followers or your friends,
Yep.
typically in the private messages or the direct messages, you would just ask them. I'd write to you and say, hey, Jane, so it's been great to chat. I'm putting together an email newsletter on this topic. Would you like to receive it? If so, just let me know your email address and I'll subscribe you.
Cool. Okay, which you can do via Instagram DM. On the Facebook channel, though, if you're acting as a business, you can't actually reach out to people personally unless they've reached out to you. Is there a workaround for that, of using that direct approach for your Facebook followers?
Look, I mean, you can use your personal profile. That's typically what I do. I reach
Really?
out to people personally and invite them to join my mailing list.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you use your Facebook page, your personal Adam Franklin Facebook page to connect with business prospects?
In part, I've only just done more of this lately.
Yeah.
I typically use LinkedIn as my primary platform.
Okay.
But
Right.
what I do with Facebook is I'll share some content on my personal page, and those people that interact with it,
Aha.
then they
Right.
essentially raise their hand to say, this stuff is of interest to me. So then I have a bit of a conversation, and I'll always
Nice.
finish with, hey, I've got my Blue Wire News. I share lots more of these marketing tips. Would you like to be a part of it?
Great. Okay. Excellent. So, as you said, that is a manual process. Is that something that you outsource, or do you do that personally?
All my stuff is personal. So some people
Right.
might think, oh, that's so silly. You can automate it. You can get VAs. You can get bots. That defeats the purpose for me. It's the relationships in business and in small business
Yeah.
that matter most. And I
Yeah.
like to know what's going on in my network. And if
Yeah.
it's somebody else doing it on my behalf, they don't know the history that I've got with these individuals.
Yeah.
You can tell
Yeah.
they don't know when we last spoke. Like if you got a message from me tomorrow saying, hey, Jane, it's been years since we've seen each other. How have you been? We'd go,
Yeah.
that's obviously not Adam,
Yeah.
because it
Because
doesn't
I
make
saw him
sense.
like last
Yeah, we
week,
saw each other yesterday, and
before COVID-19. Yep.
that's it. That's
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
And that would erode trust. And
Yes.
so you can do more damage, I think, by being too quick. Well, by outsourcing and automating and using bots, particularly
Yes.
here for this
Yeah.
relationship side of things.
100%. And that's something that I've always valued about your connection, certainly with myself. I mean, we have met in person, and that's probably where I did start to, have a further relationship with you online in terms of keeping in touch. But I love the fact that you do reach out, and you know who I am, and I know you, and that we have had that previous meeting and all that sort of stuff. It is truly authentic, and it is. You think that's really nice, because I'm sure Adam has a billion people that he's in touch with this way. The fact that he remembers me and he's reaching out and asking how Port Macquarie is and all the rest is actually really special, and it does, kind of add that layer of endearment to the relationship. So yeah, awesome. That's great. And I'd never really thought about the Facebook side of things, or really Instagram. Like, it's something that you probably do on LinkedIn, but hadn't really thought of using those channels in that way to get email addresses. That's great. So when it comes to email marketing, are there particular types of customers that are likely to be more responsive? And when I say customers, I probably mean people in terms of demographics, or even mindset. Are the people that are more likely to be responsive or non-responsive? Like, is it a generational thing? Like, does it matter what age you are, or what's the kind of, I guess, profile of someone who's going to respond really well on email?
Look, I think it's more of, I don't think there's any not that I've come across anyway, any real demographic differences. I think it's more the mindset of the people, particularly if you're in a B2B business.
Yeah.
Even if you're not, people are on email all the time.
Yeah.
For work. So it's still the primary, most powerful business communication platform over and above social media. Like, yes, I know we probably all spend too much time scrolling through our phones and looking at Facebook and Instagram feeds.
Yeah.
But if you compare that to the time we spend on email, it doesn't even come close for most people. So unless your target market is not on a computer that often, but they still got it on their phone. So email works best in my opinion, especially when you're talking, if we're talking marketing language further down the funnel, when they're building a relationship with you, when you're getting to the pointy end of a sales conversation or a commercial transaction, email outperforms social media by a long way. But that said, social media is very good for top of the funnel stuff because you can meet strangers and they can come into your orbit, into your marketing ecosystem. Social media. So they work well in tandem.
Yeah. No, that's a great example. And do you think collecting this email database and curating, the people that you put onto an email database as a business, do you think that's more important for a business to business or a B2B organization to do? Or do you think it's also important for a B2C or a business to consumer business? Or do you think it's relevant for both? And would there be any difference as to how you would use the channel depending on whether you are a business to business versus a business to consumer?
Great question. I think that email is fantastic for both. Now, we said before, everybody's got email. It's on their phone. They're never far away from their phone. So it's a perfect communication channel, whether it's B2B or B2C. Right. I think the only real difference might be that if you're selling pizzas or flowers or T-shirts or whatever, makeup and those types of things, it's more B2C. Yeah, the emails typically would probably be a bit more graphic design based. Yes. Whereas your B2B type emails, I typically see a better response with more text based emails. Yes. Not to say that they can't work for either or, but that's the main trend that I see.
And that would be reflective of my inbox, right? Because I do subscribe to a lot of, say, retail, probably more retail email newsletters, and they could come into my inbox, daily sometimes. And they are very visual. So they are full of GIFs, bright. And look, I'm someone who loves a lot of bright fashion. So there's often lots of bright colors and clothing, and they're so visually appetizing that all I want to do is click and find out how much. But I also really value the informative emails that I subscribe to of businesses. And if they were just to send me, like if I've subscribed to an accountant or a financial planner to find out useful information about that, if all I got was this, all singing, all dancing GIF landing in my inbox, I'd be slightly disappointed. So I guess it's a content difference that you're looking at there. But what you're saying is it's highly relevant for both B2B and B2C to use them. What about frequency between B2C versus B2B? Do we have more acceptance for more kind of frivolous, graphic design-esque fun emails in our inbox than we do informative one from businesses?
Okay, so I think when we put our professional hat on and we're talking B2B emails, I think a couple of things. I think one, we're way too scared. We're scared of having personality. We're scared of having fun, and we're scared of emailing people too often because heaven forbid we might annoy them. Yes. And having fun with your emails is totally fine. Yeah. Because as a person, chances are you have an element of fun about you. You have a sense of humor. You have your personality. Yeah. So to convey that, that's why people like you and why people do business with you. So you don't want to eradicate that or squash that out of your emails.
Yes.
Same deal for the frequency. You've got to remember that typically a really good open rate is 20%.
Okay. Yep.
4 out of 5 people aren't even opening your email.
Yeah.
So most of the time when I speak to coaching clients, they think, well, maybe I'll start with like a quarterly newsletter or every couple of months. And I'll say, look, 4 out of 5 people won't open, or they will open one and then not the next 4. They've forgotten about you. They've well and truly forgotten who you are if you don't communicate with them more regularly. And people value you when you show up consistently and you're generous and you're valuable to them. So as long as what you're saying is informative, valuable, entertaining, fun, we fall into the trap of thinking we're going to annoy people. So we zip our mouth, we do nothing, and we don't help these people that want our help. And we're letting them down by not communicating with them on a regular basis. It's like the friend that doesn't call back or doesn't show up.
Yes, that's true. I never really thought of it that way, because I do. Like when I go and send my emails, and I must say I don't have a great regular rhythm with my emails. I kind of maybe probably get around to it once every couple of months. But if I do fall within a couple of months and maybe send, twice, heaven forbid, in the period of 2 months, I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't annoy people, or that, they don't think I'm spamming them. And I think we do. I think we're really conscious of that. But then I know of some brands that pop up in my feed all the time. It doesn't worry me at all. And I think the difference is if you've acquired that email address with an opt-in, if someone's actually requested, if someone's actually signed up, put their hand up and said, yep, I actually want to receive your news, I want to receive your updates, then they are going to be welcoming of that in your inbox.
Yep. And just for the record, all your email addresses should have an opt-in.
Yes.
And consent, just for listeners, you should never just take someone's email address and put it on your broadcast email.
Yeah.
If that consent can be in an Instagram exchange or a Facebook exchange, but as long as they have given you permission to send them email, then that's spam compliant. But yes, they want to hear from you. That's why they said, yes, please email me. So you do that, and I recommend aiming for at least a weekly email.
Yep.
And then the pro tip here is, if after 5 days they've not opened it, then all the people that haven't, send it to them again with a different subject line.
Oh, okay.
Because you've gone to all that effort to create a good email to send to them. 80% of them won't open it the first time. So after 5, maybe 7 days, send it again with a different subject line, and then you'll get another, whatever.
Bite of the cherry.
Another bite of the cherry,
Yeah, right. Okay, so couple of questions there. When you say, yes, you need an opt-in, and yes, you do need an opt-in, what about for those businesses who have been collecting all the email addresses? They're somewhere on the system because those people have bought with them before, so they're previous customers. Can you put those onto an email database and start emailing them, or should you go out and get their express permission before you start emailing them?
Okay. I'm not a lawyer, and so I'll give you my understanding, but I'm certainly not a lawyer, so my official response is talk to a lawyer about the spam laws.
Yes.
But my understanding is, if you have a relationship with them, I would always ask for people's express consent,
because then you're
playing it safe. So to say anything else would be a bit reckless. The simple thing to do is just to email them once and say, I'm doing this regular newsletter, are you in, are you out? And away you go from there.
And I think there as well is, you want to make sure that they receive that, initial conversation to actually be given the opportunity to opt in. But I think don't be worried about if people say no or if people don't sign up, because really, I'm sure you'd agree with this, Adam, you don't actually want people on there that aren't going to be responsive and that are not going to open it and that are not going to kind of engage with you. Would you say that's right, or otherwise?
100% agree with you there. Not only do you not want them if they're not interested, but secondly, it is detrimental, because if your emails aren't getting opened, then that's going to reflect badly in your email delivery and open rates.
Yeah.
So the inbox filters like Gmail and everything else, and the broadcast platforms like MailChimp and Infusionsoft, they're looking at delivery rates and open rates and everything else. So if you've got a whole bunch of what I call emotionally unsubscribed people, like they're literally subscribed but their heart's not in it, they never open anything, that's going to detract from your essentially rating as an email sender.
So they have like an algorithm.
So you don't want dead weight. I don't know the ins and outs of it because no one ever does, but yes, if you have a responsive, clean list, it's going to be in your favor. So that's why it's worth cleansing or cleaning your email list every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
If people haven't opened anything in 6 months, send a message just to those people and say, hey, do you want in, or otherwise I'll unsubscribe you.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And then your metrics, and we'll talk about the measurements a little bit later on, are going to look a lot more encouraging. So something, Adam, that people say to me all the time when I say, have you got an email database? Do you use email as a marketing tool? They go, oh, nah, no one ever reads emails anymore. I'm not going to waste my time. No one, everybody's inbox is way too full. Why would I bother? What do you say to that?
I say a few things to that.
You got them rolled up, ready to go.
First is we are all on email. That's you just have to look at our own behavior to realize that.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, of course, like if you're out on an oil rig and there's no computers, then there are exceptions. But if we're talking small business, most of us have a phone in our pocket with email. So yes, we definitely get email. But also, to your point, yes, our inboxes are all too full.
Yeah.
Totally. But that doesn't mean that people don't want to hear from you and don't want your help.
Yeah.
So it's doing people a disservice to not be communicating with them and sharing all that wonderful knowledge and IP and personality that each small business owner has.
Yeah.
If you're not communicating, you're letting your community down.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So I'm on the email list for Blue Wire, have been for years. Love all your free resources that you share. I receive emails from you regularly. You mentioned before that you should be sending an email once a week at a minimum. I think for business to business, is that what you said in terms of frequency rate?
I would recommend that as a minimum.
At least once a week. How often do you send them for Blue Wire?
Typically 1 to 3 times a week.
Right.
So
okay.
I don't have sort of militant precision with my scheduling. If there's something useful to say and to share, I send it.
And as you said before, some of them I open, some of them I don't. And I've probably fallen into that trap of, I might not have opened the first one, so I've copped the second one with a different headline and I respond to that, which I think is brilliant. How did you work out, and how do you work out how often to send out emails? Because I know this is something that's quite sensitive. As I said before, people get paranoid that they don't want to annoy people. How do you work it out?
Well, you try and get out of your own way and reframe it in your head that you're helping people and you're letting them down if you don't. If people don't want to read it or the headline doesn't interest them, they scroll past it just like they do on Facebook and Instagram. Our emails are all super full. Our inboxes are all super full. So if they don't like it, they scroll past.
Yeah.
You're not upset, or I'm personally not upset at all the people in my promotions tab whose email I haven't opened. I just flick through, and if that appeals, I click on it. If not, I'm not annoyed because I haven't opened this email from whichever person sent it to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So frequency is important.
And I think too, also, if we place ourselves in the eye of the recipient, in the shoes of the recipient, is your recipients in different frame of minds every time they're on their email. And as you've so accurately said, some people are checking their emails from their phone. Some are checking their emails first thing when they've just got into the office. Some are checking them, last thing they do before they leave the office. Some are checking them because they're bored and they're sitting in the, doctor's waiting room and they need some entertainment. And each mindset and mind frame there is completely different. So in some of those circumstances, we might actually have time to read an email and absorb some information. In some of those scenarios, we're keen to get the hell out of the door because we're tired, we're just checking. So we're not going to open that. So I guess it depends as to what time and what mind frame and how you're actually getting in, at what point you're getting in front of your recipient as to their likelihood to open that. So one thing I notice about your emails is that they're sent in a plain format style. And I don't know how best to describe that, but other than when someone, if I was just to email you, Adam Franklin, just through my normal emailing server and it just has the text essentially, so a lot of your emails come into my inbox looking like that, but they're obviously as part of an email marketing campaign and going to lots of people. Why do you do it that way?
The reason I do it that way is because it's easier.
Yeah.
One. Two, it looks just like a regular email, which I've sent you, which it is. I've just sent it to you, along with other people, of course, because these ones we're talking about are broadcast emails.
Yes.
I do occasionally put screenshots of videos or images or what have you in there, but I no longer do that very visual format. I did for a number of years.
Yeah.
Not as visual as like some of the retail.
No, but you'd use a header and a footer and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I used to do that. Look, I may go back to it. I just find it easier to do it because I'm B2B, just a text-based type of email. I think delivery rates are possibly slightly higher because there's less images being transmitted.
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning, but there's no right or wrong. Like some people with, I'm not a graphic designer. So some people that are great at visuals, that's the way they communicate.
Yes.
So by all means do it. It's not wrong. That's just my personal reasons. I prefer writing and doing videos than trying to do anything graphic.
Well, I just didn't know whether there was a particular decision around that. I find that when they land that way, so there's something subconscious that almost makes it seem more personal because it looks like one of a more, personal style of email. It actually seems like you're writing directly to me, just from Adam Franklin, that it's not in fact a broadcast. So, okay, that's interesting. Now,
and that's my intent, for it to feel like an email that I've just sent you.
Yeah.
That's my reasoning. That's why it's personalized.
And it does.
That's why I write as if I'm just writing to one person. I very rarely say, hi guys, or hi folks, because that's plural. That's like I'm talking to everybody. So it feels less personal, and it is less personal.
Yeah.
I write, hi Jane, how are you?
Yes. And obviously for those people who are unfamiliar with emailing software, you can use it's like a mail merge function. So if you've inputted your list and separated your columns when you've uploaded your email database to this, marketing software of your choice, if you've put a column for first name, a column for surname, a column for email address, you can actually, set up your template. So it says, hi, insert first name, just like the old Word mail merger would do. And that way it'll just pick up all of the first names. And so when it arrives in my database, it does say, hi, Jane. And I actually see there's a lot of people who use that kind of customization really well. So they don't just put hi, Jane as a greeting. As I read through the email, they'll add it throughout their content. So, in paragraph 2, it might say, so Jane, what I decided to do was blah, blah, blah. And then in paragraph, 4, and Jane, I just didn't really agree with that. And there's just something about that in my mind, it makes me second guess all the time. I'm like, wow, like it really is like they're just writing to me, like this email was specifically meant for me. Okay, speaking of customization, talk to me about segmenting, because I think, and look, I'm guilty of this as well. A lot of us, when we're time poor and we go, oh, I've got to have an email, database, and I've got to send emails all the time. And when the content's quite generic, it's easy just to have everybody up on the same email. And when you send an email, it goes to everybody on the list. Can you explain a little bit about segmenting your email database, why you would do that, and when it's important to do that, and how you might segment an email database?
Okay. So I guess the thinking behind segmentation is that you don't always want to have a blanket message that everybody gets. There might be a certain part or a certain segment of that list that this message is more appropriate for.
Yes.
And that's true. The other part of it is that sometimes marketers, particularly email marketers, can just want to overcomplicate things way too much.
Right.
And they want to segment everything to within an inch of its life.
Okay.
And that can just add unnecessary complexity. I mean, if you're talking a few hundred or a few thousand people on your email list, it doesn't really matter if they first clicked on an email blog post or an SEO blog post and then trying to tailor messages to each of those.
Yeah.
To me, that is not the best use of our time, and because time is obviously limited.
Yeah.
There's a few exceptions. Like if you've got your customers who've bought a particular product from you.
Yeah.
It's not the wisest move, of course, to then keep promoting that product if you know they've already bought it.
That's right.
I will tag people who've bought, say, my book, so that if I'm promoting my book via email again, I don't send it to them and say, hey, buy this, because I know they've already bought it. That type of, that can erode trust. But for the most part, if it's a value add content-based email, like the marketing emails as opposed to more the sales emails, I tend to send more broadcast emails to everybody, with the few exceptions of sales-based stuff.
Yeah.
Or the other more advanced, I guess, but not really, technique is like the marketing funnel. So an onboarding sequence. Okay. So when somebody does enter your marketing ecosystem, it's common for people to get a series of autoresponders, say for a period of a week or two, to bring them up to speed with your best work.
Yes.
So for those people, they're in a special segment, if you like, and then they just go onto the generic broadcast blue wire news. But that's as far as the complexity goes.
Needs to go. Yeah. Okay.
Especially when you're talking low volume.
That's right. And so a couple of concepts to explain then. When you say tag someone, what can you explain what you mean by you can tag someone in your email database? Sure.
So some email platforms allow it, some it's not a feature. But basically you apply a tag so that against your name, Jane, you might have say, okay, I know Jane's bought the book and I know Jane bought a course. So these tags are just fields essentially next to your name. Ticked off. Yeah. So that you can say, send an email to everybody on my email list except for people who bought my book and bought this course.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And then when you're talking about the auto responders, so this is where people have used, I guess, a further sophisticated system or a further sophisticated tool within an email marketing database that allows auto responses to be sent to particular activities. So someone subscribes to your email address, for example, and you can plug into your email software that, okay, when someone subscribes, send that person this particular email, and that template and everything is all set up, ready to go. And then depending on how that person responds to that particular email, it might trigger another automated response that then, sends another email. And so there's this automated kind of journey, I guess, that the email software is taking your customer on. But what you're saying is that you kind of let that auto response happen to an extent, and then if they haven't kind of bitten by that stage, they'll just go into the general database, which is receiving your helpful newsletter content.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And the welcome sequence is still useful and valuable. It's just a set sequence of, for me, it's 7 emails.
Right.
Just so that I know that they're getting my best stuff straight away. And typically people, and this took me a long time to realize, I always thought that people were more likely to buy or engage with you, say, months or years down the track once they'd really got to know you.
Yep.
But I've had that thinking flipped on its head with the fact that people are often more likely to buy at the start because they're hungry for information and they want to learn more.
Yes.
So that's why my autoresponder or my welcome sequence, I'm changing it now because of the current situation, but generally speaking, it's 7 days, an email per day.
Yeah.
And I set that expectation at the start so that I know they're getting my best material, all the foundation stuff, so their understanding is really good. And scattered throughout them are calls to action if they'd like to have a conversation about working together.
Nice. Okay, excellent. So we're talking a lot about email marketing software here. Adam, what do you recommend? What have you worked with? I mean, obviously you're using one, so tell us about that. But what are some other ones that people can look to for their email marketing?
Okay, so the basic ones that are super awesome and reliable that I've used is Campaign Monitor and Vision 6's product.
Mm-hmm.
So they're great. MailChimp is one that's very popular and affordable and reliable. So that would be the best starting point.
Yep.
I hear ActiveCampaign is fantastic. I've not used it personally because I use Infusionsoft. And I use it only because we outgrew the other ones, because we started having online courses for sale and other levels of sophistication that the others didn't provide at that point in time. But I miss the days of using Campaign Monitor.
Yes,
that's for sure. I mean, I still do use it because I've got a segment of my audience on that platform, so I enjoy that part. But I kind of wish my whole list was on Campaign Monitor because it's just beautiful and robust and lovely compared to how complicated Infusionsoft is.
Infusionsoft, I experimented with Infusionsoft for a couple of months there, and look, I'm a huge fan of MailChimp. I use that all the time. I must say I don't set up a lot of automated sequences and things. I think you can do that in MailChimp, but it's very, very rudimentary functionality compared to some of those other softwares that you've mentioned. But I must say Infusionsoft for me was completely the other side of the spectrum. Like, I found it so freaking complicated to work out. Like, it hurt my head. It seemed like it just had to use a completely different side of my brain, Adam, that just doesn't exist. So it didn't actually take me long to actually just completely cancel that and go back. Well, just give up on automated sequencing all the time. I think what I got to, the conclusion I got to there was, okay, if I really need to implement this automated email functionality into my business, I'm actually going to pay someone to do this for me that can do this with a lot more skill and who can do this a lot faster than I can. And I think that's important for businesses, right? To actually understand that you don't actually have to be a technical expert at everything, because some of these tools can be highly technical. They can be so effective, but they are highly technical, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that have, better things to do than sit there and try and work that out. Do you do it all yourself, or do you get some help with that?
I get help with Infusionsoft. Everybody calls it Confusionsoft.
Oh my God, yes.
It's just too difficult. Like, aside from it being a more expensive platform, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
The reason we upgraded to Infusionsoft was because by the time we had our basic Campaign Monitor, we had all these other different bits and pieces that we needed for all this different functionality, mainly selling courses.
Yeah.
But then the total cost of all the 5 or 6 different things all sort of Frankenstein together was less than what Infusionsoft was charging.
Right.
The challenge is that you've then got to pay a consultant $200 an hour to get it all working for you.
Yeah.
It's not intuitive, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, which is a bit harsh. I'm a happy, loyal customer. I've been with them for years. It does everything that we need it to do. It's just clunky and confusing. So for small business owners, until you totally outgrow a platform, stick to the simple stuff, because it should be intuitive. It's not hard to write an email. Like in MailChimp, it's easier to set up an autoresponder. Campaign Monitor, it's pretty much idiot proof. Right. So stick to those ones. And yes, but you're right. When you do have to go to a more advanced, complicated platform, just get a consultant to help. Yeah.
Unless you like totally geek out on that stuff, and that
unless you love it, but
floats your boat. Yeah. So, talk us through some of the mistakes, some of the biggest mistakes that you see businesses make with their email marketing efforts.
Okay, so the biggest mistake is they don't send any emails.
So true.
That is by far and away the biggest mistake. The second biggest mistake is being afraid to be themselves.
Oh,
they just put this boring corporate, professional language on everything. It's not personalized. It doesn't come from them in terms of their sign off. You don't know who's written it. It doesn't feel personal. It's just safe and boring and ineffective.
Oof.
So just write an email. Like the thing is, we send hundreds of, or maybe not hundreds, but dozens of emails each day at a bare minimum.
Yeah.
Just have a look at how you write on them. Look at emails you've sent. Look at your sent items, and chances are you have sent something valuable to a prospect or a client, explaining something. Just take the body of that email, and you've got months or years worth of emails that you've sent to people that are useful, that are written one-to-one, that sound exactly like you, conversational. So use that as your inspiration and pick out of that. Just obviously change, make it, don't leave any client information in there. Read through it. You've sent so much useful stuff already this week. Just pick one of those emails and send it to everybody, so that everybody gets the benefit of that insight you've sent to one person.
That's so good. Yes, I love it. So there's a wealth of insight sitting there waiting in your sent files. I love it.
And you've already done the hard work. Just share it with everybody now.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that you make about even the reflection on your tone and personality in an email. Going back, and even if you're not looking at the advice that you've given within emails or for the content, just reflecting, how is it that you're actually communicating? What's the tone? Are you super friendly? Do you use an abundance of emojis? Are you effusive with your kind of praise and enthusiasm when it comes to the topic of what you sell? Or are you direct and to the point and sparse with your email demeanor? Because I agree with you, it makes complete sense to mirror that within your marketing communications. And of course, if you reflect back on your sent files, on your sent emails, and realize that perhaps you're not the nicest person, or or you're a bit rude or curt in your emails, don't take inspiration from that. Any other mistakes that you see people make, or are they the main ones?
Look, they're the main ones.
Yeah. Okay. So then in terms of people doing it well, of really kind of driving success with emails, have you got any case studies or stories about a business that's had some really positive impact by either introducing email or just using it more cleverly?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. There's definitely, I've got my handful of email lists that I subscribe to where I read them all the time.
Yeah.
And I think probably an additional question to that is for each listener to think about, well, whose emails that I receive do I look forward to getting, do I read all the time, and do I buy from? And That way, like I've got my favorites and I can talk about them, but I think it's more important to think, like, look at your own inbox, look at your promotions tab or your inbox, and look at the ones that you've actually clicked open, and think about, what is it about that company or that sender?
Yeah.
Is it trust with that person that's the key driver?
Yeah.
Is it the headline that really got my attention? And also, did I then buy from these people? So
Yes.
in my early days, and still to this day, but I thought, whose marketing really resonates with me? What was it that they did? And how did I respond? And how much did I end up spending
Yes.
with those people? And I thought, that's the type of marketing that I want to emulate.
Yes.
I think we can learn a lot from our own behaviors.
Yeah.
Back to that because what I like, maybe your listeners wouldn't like, for example.
Yeah. But what were some of the characteristics for you personally? Because as you said, everyone's got different decision, things that prompt decisions or emotional responders. What was it about the emails that you found that you were responding to? Like, what were the characteristics that were tipping you over the edge?
Okay, so one of the people that we got introduced to his work in the early days is a guy called Vern Harnish.
Oh, yeah.
He has the one-page strategic plan.
Yep.
He's known as the growth guy. And he had a book at the time called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits.
Yeah.
And he's done a newer version of it, an updated version called Scaling Up, which he released a few years back. And we got introduced to his email because of the one-page strategic plan, which was a single page, like double-sided single-page document, which was available for free on his website. But we had it mentioned to us by friends, by mentors. So his name and his tool, his planning, his one-page strategic plan kept coming into our orbit from people that we trusted. And we thought, okay, so this document has been shared with us from people.
Yep.
We've downloaded it from his website.
And in an exchange for your email address.
In exchange for our name and email address.
Yeah.
And Vern has emailed us on a regular basis his weekly insights email, which he's been sending for 15, maybe 20 years, but we've been on it for 15.
Shivers.
And I just love the way that, not that I emulate necessarily his exact language or anything, because he's got his own personality.
Yeah.
But the fact that there was a regular email coming in called Weekly Insights from Vern. So we tried to, and that resonated with us. We ended up buying more of his books, attending his workshops, all of that type of stuff. So when Toby and I in the early days, we were reflecting, we thought, that's the type of thing that we want to emulate. And so that's why, I'll just grab an example of it. That's why we thought, how can we apply the same thinking but to marketing? And so we created the web strategy planning template, and I'll just pull it up for the video recording.
Yep.
Wherever it's gone. And so we created this as a free planning template, double-sided, one page, and gave that away as a gift to emulate Vern. Yeah. And then once people opted in, we started sending a weekly Blue Wire news. Yes. And so we modeled the framework that we liked and did it ourselves. So that's an example. Like Vern's emails, I just love. I love the information that he shares. He's built trust. Yeah. So he's one that I personally like.
I think that's a cracking example. And not knowing that story, not knowing that that's where you got that inspiration from, I think that was how I fell into your orbit. And I can't remember which came first, us meeting at the event that you came to in Port Macquarie, or me coming across you, because you had, and you probably still do, the 31 resources? 33 resources, And that web, what did you call it? The
web strategy planning.
The web strategy, So the web strategy resource, I think, was one of the first ones that I came across, and I actually remember printing that out and sticking it, above my computer on my desk, where I could actually refer to it all the time, because it was this super useful resource. And not only did you send me that in exchange for an email, but you sent me the other 32 resources as well, which have also been incredibly helpful as well. And because of that generosity, you know, I've obviously shown great loyalty in being a part of your community and responsive and all the rest. That's a great example. Now, speaking of free resources and using social media, you've done this really recently, and I've seen you do it before, and it always goes off like a frog in a sock, or when I see it on LinkedIn. And what you do is you offer you either post a video, or even if it's just a flat image, and you say, hey guys, I've got this really cool SEO resource. It's one page. I think you'll find it really valuable. If you want a copy of it, drop me a note in the comments. And then all I need to do is go, hey ads, yep, I'd love it. Thanks. Can you send it to me? Now I'm already on your email list. And when you send me that SEO document, there's no strings attached. So talk me through this strategy, Adam.
Okay. I'd love to. So yes, that's the approach. I've always wanted to emulate people like Vern, like David Meerman Scott, like Seth Godin, who say lead with generosity.
Yeah.
Share some of your best resources and make it free, eliminate any friction. And that's what I've tried to emulate by giving away the templates in the first place. And so I've applied that philosophy to places like LinkedIn and also Facebook and Instagram. But LinkedIn is where where you've seen it.
Yeah.
And look, I just say, leave a comment down below saying SEO, and I'll send you my 2020 version of the SEO planning template.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is, one, because I want to share it with more people.
Yeah.
So the question listeners might be thinking is, why don't you just link to the document rather than saying leave a comment and you send it to them? Because that's more work. It's obviously a lot easier to put a link.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of reasons I don't. The first is that I like to know who's interested.
Yeah.
And that opens up a conversation with these people, and I can get to know them. I can look at their profile and see where they work, or all that type of stuff. So it's really good as a relationship starting tool.
Yeah.
Second benefit is that when people leave comments, it's sends signals to LinkedIn that it's resonating with people, that people are engaging with it, which I think in turn helps its visibility and gets shown to more people because there's that level of interaction. But first and foremost, it's because I want to share information and I want to know who's interested. And I just want to make it easy for people. Like, it's much easier for people just to type in yes or SEO into a comment and get it.
Yeah.
But the third reason that I do that rather than a link is that linking off LinkedIn isn't really that, well, one, you don't get much visibility because LinkedIn doesn't really like it when you send traffic away.
Yeah.
It's putting on this awesome, like what I call like a business party.
Yeah.
All your potential future clients are there. It's free. They've invited you along. And as a guest at a party, if you immediately try and steal people away, it's not very good behavior. So LinkedIn sits you in a corner and says, we're not going to introduce you to other people, because when we do, you just try and steal them away to your website, your party. Yes, but on the flip side, if you're a good party guest and you've gone to all its expense and effort to get all these people in a room, and you go to a party and you have good conversations, you are sharing, having a conversation and sharing good content. Yeah. LinkedIn feels safe introducing you to more people because you're proving to them that you're a good guest. You're not trying to steal people away.
Yes.
You're having conversations and people like you being there. So it makes LinkedIn look good. So what it does is LinkedIn goes, okay, this person's nice. We're going to introduce them to more people. And therefore they show your content to people not only in your first degree network, but your second and third degree network. So people you don't even know yet, they don't know you, but because your content is resonating, LinkedIn is introducing your content to them for free.
They're being generous.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're making me feel like this huge party pooper mean girl, forever directing anyone from LinkedIn to my website blog before. I swear, LinkedIn, I'll never do it again. Sorry. Actually, no, that's not true. But I get it. And I love your analogy about the party because, yeah, that completely makes sense. And I've noticed myself with using LinkedIn that if you do, and we call them link posts, where you actually send people away from LinkedIn to consume the full amount of content, those seem to perform the worst in terms of engagement. And as you said, if you're keeping people on the platform and having people engage with you on the platform, you seem to get rewarded with more visibility there. So that's an excellent, really, really excellent analogy. But tell me, so you start a conversation with them in the direct mail because you actually send that document to me using the LinkedIn direct mail platform. So I'm still on LinkedIn here. How do you then get them from there onto your email database?
Okay. Glad you asked, because this is the secret sauce that nobody sees from the outside.
Yeah.
So people just see you're giving stuff away, and if they do engage, because I say no opt-in required. So people are thinking, well, why is he doing this? Why is he just giving this stuff away for free? They're not getting on the email list. So basically, I would just send you the template by direct message.
Yep.
Then I let it wait for people. Typically, they write back and say thanks.
Yep.
And I say, hey, no worries, Jane, you're welcome. By the way, I've got a short webinar explaining this template or on this topic that I thought you might be interested in. And so that's when I link them to a registration page or a landing page on my website, which is then when they opt in with their name and email address.
Right.
Assuming, because I've managed to build some trust, it's been frictionless, they've got something genuinely for free.
Yes.
And I have a real I get really annoyed with marketers seem to be the only people on the planet that can give away a free book and charge people $7. I just free book. $7, mate. That's not free. That's $7 postage and handling. But you know what I mean. So it always feels like there's a catch.
Yes.
In a lot of people's marketing.
Yes.
And there's no catch with this.
Yeah.
You want the PDF? I send it to you.
Yeah.
And then I show you the next baby step if you've found that useful.
Yeah.
And valuable.
Yeah.
And because hopefully those people that do like it, they're interested in taking the next step.
Yeah.
And they sort of come deeper and deeper into the marketing ecosystem.
And it's all optional. So they've got that, you know, so they take that SEO document that you've given them on LinkedIn, and then when you do kind of reach out to them again on LinkedIn and start having that conversation, they've got the choice as to whether they want to continue that conversation with you or not. And if they do, and if they're genuinely interested, which most people would be if they've actually said, yep, send me the SEO thing, then you can drive those people off. I love that. I think that's such a great strategy. So in terms of measurement, what are the metrics that you look at, Adam? How do you know if an email database, either for yourself or for a client, or your email marketing is rocking? What are the numbers that you look at there?
Okay. Now, it's very, very easy to get lost in the amount of data and analytics with email marketing. But there's three main metrics I look at with digital marketing. The first is traffic to the website.
Yep.
Second is email opt-ins, like the number of people opting into my mailing list each month.
Okay.
And then the revenue.
Great.
They're really the three main ones.
Yeah. And you look at that on a monthly basis?
Yeah, it's on a dashboard, so I know what it is all the time.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Fantastic.
So that's how simple I keep it, because we can get too bogged down in other stuff. But I mean, generally speaking, a 20% open rate is good.
Yep. And for people who haven't used email marketing software, it will actually tell you exactly how many people that email was successfully delivered to, and exactly of how many of those people have opened it. If you've put links that you do direct people to your website or to another website or whatever, you can actually see how many people have clicked through. You can see people that have unsubscribed. You can see people who've bounced. I mean, it really is so visible in terms of those metrics. But as you said, you don't want to get too concerned with the metrics that are kind of almost vanity metrics. I mean, you do have to pay attention to them, because at the end of the day, if no one's opening your email, well, no one's going to be able to buy, or no one's actually going to be able to drive to your website if no one's actually opening the email in the first place. But they're three really good main metrics to understand whether this marketing is actually, at the end of the day, adding value to your top or bottom line. So excellent. Adam, so much great insight. This has been fantastic. Thank you. And you've been really, really generous in sharing your strategies, because, I'm sure that has taken you years to work that out and, build some trial and error around that to work out what does work. So really, really appreciate you sharing that with our listeners.
It's an absolute pleasure, Jane.
Now tell me, where can people find you so they can get more of your wonderful Blue Wire emails?
Okay, so bluewiremedia.com.au is my website. And when you land there, it's very obvious. You can just click the button to download the web strategy planning template, and then you'll be opened up to all the other templates and all the other training and resources and webinars that I've got to offer. So bluewiremedia.com.au, and there's also my book called Web Marketing That Works.
And
so
I have that book
on Amazon and everywhere else. So they're the two best ways to find me. But also I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect there, just mention that you've been listening to the podcast, and we'll connect there.
That's awesome. And yes, I was just going to say, I have that email. I have that book. Gosh, when did you publish that, Adam? That must have been years ago.
Yeah, it was. It was 2014 it was published.
Yes. And it's a cracker. It's fantastic. So, and where did you say that was available? Amazon. That's
Amazon and all the other online bookshops.
Great.
And even though it's 6 years old, 95% of it is still totally relevant.
Yeah.
A few of the platforms like Google Plus obviously isn't as relevant, and we've got other things now.
Yeah.
But the fundamentals are still the same as 10 years ago when we first released the web strategy planning template. The fundamental basic stuff stays the same, and it's still the most effective. So still very much very well worth a read.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Jane. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to the episode of How to Do Marketing featuring Adam Franklin. Well, all the email strategies were right there. I love how he used his social media channels to first start a personalised conversation and then move people across to his email database. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please let them know about it. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the show or to leave a rating or review. Until next time, happy marketing.
You've been listening to another Morgan